And welcome to the Mexican Football Podcast. This is El Rifado, aka Christian Diaz, coming to you from San Diego, California, with my wonderful co host, Albert Perez, aka El Más Sabio. How are you, mi sabio?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here for the second episode of the Mexican Football Podcast. We had our debut last week and we got some positive response. Let's get the ball rolling and let's start off with some air horn.
Of course, of course. What are we
There we
without our
go.
air horns? But I thank you for joining me. Thank you for doing this podcast with me, and I do appreciate the listeners for listening to our inaugural first episode ever of the MF podcast. The Mexican Football Podcast, the MoFo podcast, and
The Mamada Free Podcast.
and of course
Mamada
the
Free, remember
Mamada Free
that.
podcast. We're gonna keep it to a bare minimum at the very least. Anywho, I wanted to go ahead and get started with with the talk of the town, the hot topic that everyone's raving about, and that of course is the semifinals of the World Cup. I know Mexico has already been eliminated, but the show must go on, right? And right now we're coming off a wonderful game where Spain defeated France 2-0. And I'd love to know your thoughts, Albert. Tell me, what do you think?
You know what? I've been saying it all tournament long that Spain is going from least to most. The coach De La Fuente had to manage some injuries early on, and it's this tournament is long, man. This is with the extra round, and then remember a lot of these players they come from these long European seasons. So the coach had De La Fuente. I hope that's his name, no, De La Fuente. Yeah. He's
Yeah, yeah.
he has to manage it, and he's done a great job so far. And in the lead up to the game with France, which France looked like a unbeatable machine, I had said, look, he's going to implement his style, and they're going to grind out the French, and that's what they did. They pressured them. They had possession. They said that France could never get in the match, and that was because Spain didn't let them get in the match. They knew how to take care of them, and they're in their they're in the lead up to their second title, and I think they have a good chance of beating whoever comes out of the other semifinal between Argentina and England.
They're surprising a lot of people, and I guess we shouldn't be surprised, given that in 2010, their World Cup year, the year in which Spain won the World Cup for the first time in their history, they started off that tournament with a loss to Switzerland. So I guess,
And they're the current Euro champions. So and they had beaten England for that title. So it's a obviously everybody was talking Argentina and France, but they're sleeping on Spain because they haven't looked spectacular. But to win this, you don't have to look spectacular.
you
You
know,
just have to grind out the games, and that's what they're doing.
also, Nico Williams was injured, and Lamine Yamal also started the beginning of this tournament injured. What's the saying? History does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. And I feel like that's the relevant thing to say right now, because it's not the same as in what is it, 16 years ago when they won it, but it is similar, eerily similar. And like I said, they had a slow start last
Uh,
time. They had a slow start this time against Cape Verde, 0-0 draw to them, and we kind of I'm guilty of this. I wrote them off, and more fool I. But they look to be a really impressive side. France for moments in this tournament looked unplayable. They looked, like miles ahead of anyone. And to beat them and to not even let them get on the scoreboard, people like Olise, Dembele, Mbappe, these are world class players. These are like top five,
Lisa did not have a good afternoon today.
Yeah, it was unfortunate for him. And yeah, they've been eliminated, and now Spain is either going to face Argentina or England. Tell me, who do you think is going to win, Argentina or England?
You know what? I think it's going to be England, just for the fact that that Argentina is very Messi dependent, and they, let's be honest, they've had everybody talks about the easy route that they have, yes, but they've had to scrap out these results against teams like Cabo Verde, against Egypt, and against Switzerland, which if you compare them, if you compare squads, it's like Argentina should be lapping these guys, but
Les
but they got
cuesta.
in through. Yeah, they're ready. So this time they're finally gonna meet a heavyweight, and I think Jude and Harry they're gonna, and Gordon they're gonna cook, and and it's gonna be England versus Spain in the NYC on Sunday.
I agree with that prediction. It feels like it costs them more and more every game. You feel like maybe there's a little bit of help from the ref, and it's a little more apparent in every moment.
Yeah,
Not to sound out too many security. I mean, like I don't think it's like some coordinated effort. I think it's more unconscious bias. For the world champ, like in boxing, you have to beat the
yeah, yeah,
champion definitively,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
If it's
yeah,
close, it's going to go to
yeah,
the champ. And so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that might be what people are complaining about right now in regards to Argentina. But I'm seeing them struggle. I don't think they're gonna find lightning in a bottle twice. But England, I want them to win because if we lose, if they win it all, Mexico can say we lost to the champs.
You could hang a feather in your hat, no? Like,
You
oh,
could, but
we
but
lost to the champ.
but it's a cop out. It's a cop out. Um, and so like and they're a little bit snooty. Let's be honest. The British are known for being a little snooty, and so that makes me not want them to win. And then so my wife is Argentinian. She's rooting for Argentina. She took the day off tomorrow to watch the
Okay.
match. So in this
Wow.
house, by default, I do, you know, it's hard for me to support Argentina because they always beat Mexico, and I'm a diehard Mexico fan. So I've always hated them.
Rifado, Rifado. So let's talk about the support. This has been a theme going on throughout most of the World Cup of why there is so much anti-Argentine sentiment. I mean, you could talk about the social stuff, but sports wise, it reminds me a lot of like when in Major League Baseball, the Yankees were dominating in the NFL when Brady and the Patriots were dominating, and Brady would get a lot of calls. So it's very similar. Just people just they just don't they just don't want to see these guys triumph. But it comes from I think from a competitive. A lot of it comes from a competitive nature, but yes, there is some social aspect to it.
It, you
But
know, I
it's
do
very
think
interesting.
the social aspect does intersect. I think you're right. I think you're right. But more apparent than that is the fact that they don't consider them. A lot of these Argentinians do not consider themselves Latin American, or they consider themselves
Oh,
Latin
yeah.
American with an asterisk.
Oh,
You have the past president que
during
used to
the
say nosotros llegamos de barco or vinimos en barcos, like and then they described us as like coming from the jungle or something. And so a lot of them don't see themselves like the rest of Latin America.
Oh,
And
and then if you look at the history, which obviously involves England with the Falkland Island issue, uh, Argentina they felt isolated by Latin America during that deal. So it's a lot of stuff brewing. Like I remember Chile reading that Chile lent some of their land for English military. So there's a lot of resentment by the Argentines with the rest of Latin America. But yeah, they don't consider themselves Latinos. Like during the Bad Bunny Super Bowl hype back in February, a lot of Argentines online were saying he doesn't represent Argentines are not that type of a Latino. We're mostly European.
y- y-
That's what a lot of them said.
they do. They have a similar history to the United States, where like the indigenous population was wiped out, and instead they relied on mass migration from Europe. I
Well,
think
they were reformed. They openly allowed European settlers come into Argentina to become citizens and become part of the society. And in that move, they they marginalized the natives and a lot of people of black ancestry.
Yeah, yeah, I do remember reading that, and in this current day, I think 70% of the population identifies as Italian, or like majority, or a major part of their heritage is Italian. So,
Yeah,
you know, the population is heavily influenced by Europe, and then I love that you brought up the historical context of facing England, because yes, the British, they fought a war over the Falkland Islands. They won the war, and I think it was like a few years afterwards they faced each other in the semifinals, where Maradona
yeah,
famously did La mano de Dios, the hand of God,
yeah.
and in the lead up to that, or I think it was after, Maradona talked about like, hey, like none of our family had died in that war, but it was like in all of our minds, and it meant something. It was an extra umph. It was something that propelled us to want to win this more, because it's more than just football. So,
Rifado,
go ahead.
I remember 20 years ago, ESPN Deportes, they would do a lot of promos in the lead up to the World Cup, and they had interviewed in one of the promos, they interviewed a man who said that he took dirt from Las Malvinas where his brother died, and he put it in the cancha del Azteca after Maradona and the rest of the guys beat England in that what was it, a quarterfinal, was it a semifinal or quarterfinal game in '86?
I think it
It
was
was
a
a quarterfinal.
semifinal, or was it a quarter? Whatever it was, it was more than just a football match.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
it
and
meant a
and
lot for the Argentines.
and the history between the two countries isn't always like a rivals. Like, if you look at the clubs, River Plate, Bainfield, New World Old Boys, or Rosario Young Boys, they obviously
A
have,
lot of English,
it's a lot
a
of
lot of
English
English influence.
influence, and part of the intelligentsia of Argentina is heavily influenced by the British. Their most famous author, Jorge Luis Borges, he loved British literature, and so it's a love hate relationship between these two, and I'm looking forward to it tomorrow, because like I said earlier, it's more than just a football match. It's a clash of cultures. It's like, it's another saga in this tragedy of betrayal between
Yeah.
former friends.
So this is this is their fourth meeting after the Falkland Islands. They had met each other in a controversial game back in '66, where I believe Ratin sat on the Queen's red carpet after he had gotten booted. But after the Falklands, this is going to be their fourth meeting. So the first one was at Game in Azteca. Then in the round of 16 in France, where Michael Owen had a breakout, but Argentina won in penalties. And then 4 years later, they met in a group stage match in the Korea Japan, where England got the best of Argentina with a penalty kick and a 1-0 victory. With a penalty kick from Beckham in a 1-0 victory. So they have some history on the field. So
Yeah,
it's going to be a powder keg tomorrow
I
in
agree. I agree.
Atlanta
That, I
in
love the way you
the
put it.
ATL
Powder
in the
keg,
ATL.
and it's more than just a football game. There's so much history behind this match, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And after talking about it, I'm like, let's go Argentina, man, because in a sense, Argentina's like, I'm just like you, England, and then England's like, no, you're not. I'm gonna take these islands. And then Argentina's kind of had a chip on their shoulder. They've always wanted to get back at England, who did this to them. Anywho, let
Like no,
go on. No, go
over.
ahead. No, no.
No, 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 no. Like I was reading Nico Cantor, and he said that the descent comes more from the Argentine side than the English side.
Yeah, well,
So
I mean,
that's
the
I
English
agree.
have beat up off. What does it say?
Yeah,
The sun never sets on the British Empire. I'm sure there's a
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
long list of British enemies, from the
yeah,
Irish to the Indians and so on and so forth.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, Argentina, England. I think England's gonna win. But I guess, I'm rooting for Argentina, not willingly, but I guess that's who I'm left
Hey,
with.
you don't want to sleep on the couch.
Yeah, that's a good point, Albert. Thank you. And with that, let's leave this and talk about something else. Let's go into the upcoming Apertura for Liga MX. Tell me, Albert, what do you have to say
Oh,
about this upcoming tournament?
so so like the MLS advertisement for their post World Cup action says, "World, we got it." Well, you know who has it? Liga MX has it, and it starts this week with the exciting Apertura 2026, and it promises to be another whirlwind of Liga MX passion and action and hijinks.
I believe it, man, and I'm so excited for it because mis Chivas de toda la vida, el rebaño sagrado has never looked so good. Well, no, I'm sure they have. They won the league 5 years in a row, something like 60, 70 years ago, but they haven't looked so good in the last 10 years. And I'm looking at this squad, I'm looking at the signings, I'm looking at Milito, and I'm like, I think the stars have aligned for us. And so,
And it looks like Rifado, and it looks like this is Chivas tournament to lose. It's like if they don't win, I consider it should be a flop. Like you said, the stars have aligned, and they should have done it 2 months ago. But we know what happened. They had to give up five guys to the selection. But you know what? They're even stronger now. So we'll see.
yes, sir. And so the league starts with this Thursday, 6 p.m., Necaxa versus Atlante. Atlante, fresh from promotion from the Segunda, and led by El Piojo Herrera. Tell me, what do you think about Atlante? What do you think about Necaxa and this inaugural match for the Apertura?
Well, let me focus on Atlantis. Mazatlan was sacrificed for Atlante, which their fans, they say it's a historic team, but it's just it has history, but I don't know how much it weighs, but they do have some fans, but they're a lot on the older side, but it's it used to be they used to be one. It was, I think it was Asturias and Atlante, if I'm not mistaken, the first real Clásico in I may be mistaken, but I think that was the first real Clásico in Mexican soccer. So it's a team, like I said, with history. But this new incarnation, they from what they look like in what's it called, the Ascenso, or the I don't know what it's called now, the lower division. They've
Mm-hmm.
made over
Ascenso.
20, yeah, Ascenso. They made over 15 moves, and obviously the right now their most shining, their most shining aspect is the fact that they got El Piojo after his bad reign in Costa Rica. He comes back to Liga MX to jumpstart his career, and he does it with a team he's identified with. He won a title with them back in the 90s. So the fans identify with him, and all the Atlantistas, they're happy. But like I said, it's a team that has had a lot of turnover. Supposedly they wanted, Chicharito was going to sign with them, but Chicharito said that was a lie. But they haven't made like a real like splashy signing. So, but we'll see. It's gonna be very interesting to see how Atlanta's first tournament back goes.
Yeah, it is really interesting. Atlante historically in the Ciudad de Mexico, and then for like, I don't know, 40 years, they went on a journeyman trip throughout Mexico. I think at one point they were in Zacatecas and God knows where else.
Well,
And finally
they
they're
ended up in their last iteration in the top flight league. They were in Cancun when they won the title, and they ended up winning Concacaf, and they went to the Club World Cup, and they played Barcelona. So that's the last
they should have
that
stayed
I
at Cancun,
believe.
bro. Now they're
Yeah, yeah.
sleeping on the couch or in the garage for Club America in the Estadio
Hey,
Azteca.
but at least they have a place, not like those Smurfs of Cruz Azul. But we'll get to them later.
Yeah, yeah. But just real quick, it's going to be America, Cruz Azul, and Atlante sharing Banorte Stadium, or should I say El
No, no,
Azteca?
no. Remember, as I said, we'll get to it later, and we'll go into detail. Azul will not be a Banorte, and I'll explain it. I'll explain it right now.
Dun dun dun. All right, thank you for that. And so, yeah, that's the inaugural match, and I'm looking forward to it. You know, my wife knows that I'm not leaving Thursday, Saturday, or Thursday, Fridays, or Saturday because so we start off. Hold on one second. And so we start off with that match, and Necaxa, they let go of Gago. They got a new guy. I don't know him too well. I'm not. I haven't seen them make any good moves really. But you know, also on Thursday, and I should have applied for the Prudential. I guess I could still apply. I should apply right now to Cholos versus Tigres. I think that was actually
Go for it.
like 2 years ago. I think that was my first press pass, but I should apply again. And so on Cholos, some news from Cholos. What's it called? Gilberto Mora just signed an extension. He just graduated high school, and it looks like he's going to play for Cholos for at least 6 more months, which I think is great. You know, he's 17 years old. He can't legally go to Europe until he's 18. I think Cholos is the place for him. You know, they're led by El Loco Abreu, and I think they're a good project. I think you know, they they've really cemented themselves as like a Liguilla team, like maybe from repechaje or like barely scraping by.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But prior to this ascension, with Juan Carlos Osorio and Abreu, they were the dregs of Liga MX under Piojo Herrera. And so I've seen this
Yeah,
club
yeah,
rise. I've seen them make some
yeah,
real progress, not spending crazy money, and really developing young players. We Chivas bought Kevin Castaneda from Cholos. We bought Efrain
yeah,
Alvarez from Cholos, and now the
yeah.
world is hungry for Gilberto Mora, another Cholos, prospect. And so, is there something in the water of of Tijuana? Um,
They, they got on track in the border because, like you said, after like their initial run where they won the title with Turco, they had just become another team, and people were even questioning, does Tijuana even deserve a team? But in the last the last 2 years, they picked it up, and like you said, they've been producing players, and they become a player when they, in the league. So it's. Good for Cholos. Good, especially that they're right here in the border, so close. We could easily travel. I went January of 2005. I went to go see them against Cruz Azul, and it was a hell of a environment. If you go, you gotta you guys gotta try la colitas de puerco. It's exactly that, pigtails. There you go.
I haven't tried the pigtails. I haven't tried the pigtails, but I have gotten the press pass. I think 3 4 times to see Cholos, and I love it,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
I always park on I go through the Otay Mesa exit, park my car,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I get a taxi, I get dropped off there, and even when they were at the dregs of Liga MX, there was always it was
Yeah.
always a good time. I was there for Juan Carlos Osorio. I think I was there for Gilberto Mora's debut. If not
Oh,
his
okay.
debut, then his like second or third game for Cholos. And so I was there for it, and this is before they started doing well, but the people were
Hey,
were
Rifado,
supporting
Rifado.
them. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. Rifado, a side note here, again, when you go through Otay again, make sure you stop at Tacos El Gallito in Otay. They have some New York New York strip steak tacos. Phenomenal, phenomenal, man.
I'm gonna have to check them out. I'm gonna have to check them out. I always have such a good time with one of the taxi drivers. I always tell them that I'm here representing the press for the match, and they're like, "What? That's so cool!" And we will like I'll literally talk to these guys the whole ride there about Cholos'
Oh, you know
chances.
what? I have a funny story. So I'm crossing the border to for the Cruz Azul game. So I have to go through the U.S. Nationals, the U.S. Nationals line, and the Mexican immigration officer, she's a woman, and then she looks very serious, and she tells me, ¿A qué vienes? What are you coming for? Le digo, oh, Cholos Cruz Azul. Esa, ¿y a quién le vas? Y dije, oh, pues yo le voy a Chivas. And she was serious when she said that. Oh, good that you're a Chivas fan, because if you're an America fan, I would have charged you. And she just let me, and she just let me through.
Yeah, man. You know what? I haven't had it. I've told Border Patrol as well. Of me playing. I mean, of me. Representing the press or getting a press pass, and they think it's so cool. And I've never had any trouble. So any people want to go, it's quick. I've never felt unsafe, but I do just take a taxi from
Then you
uh
know what, Rifado? I think if you have tickets, there Cholos has a bus from the border from the San Isidro crossing
yeah, yeah.
that takes you straight to the stadium. So no fuss, no muss.
Yes, yes, and I would do that, but the San Isidro state exit is just too busy for my liking. You know,
Oh yeah, it's
it,
a mess. Yeah.
it is a little too crazy for me. So I'm just like, I'll just pay the $20 for the taxi, you know, and I guess I guess I can afford that. But on to Tigres. They're the away team during this match. They just signed this Argentine defender from I believe Sao Paulo, in the Serie A of Brazil. So they're reinforcing their defense with I think a stalwart defender, and but they're gonna lose a key piece in the attack. Angel Correa, campeón del mundo with Argentina, is rumored. I think he's got one foot out the door. It's pretty serious. He's he's on his way to River Plate, and
Well, I had read about that. Supposedly, Tigres is not interested because being a River Plate and Argentine team, they're really trying to haggle, and they don't want to play. They don't want to pay the 18 million transfer fee. So I think they're gonna end up waiting for next summer when it goes down to 10 million. But
mhm,
it's Argentine teams being Argentine teams. So and what I read was that think this is they're happy with them, so they don't want to let them go. But we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see
But
what happens.
you know why I think it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna happen because Angel Correa wants it to happen, and
But yeah, yeah,
all
I can
reports
see
have,
that.
have been consistent with that. And he's done good with Tigres. He's been there about a year. I think he's got like double digits. I think it's like 50 games and like I don't know 30 goals and assists combined.
Yeah.
And so he's got good numbers. He's a great player. If you watch him, like so much of the
Oh
attack
yeah,
goes through him and maybe someone like Bruneta, another Argentine. And so if they
he's
lost him,
a game changer. He's a game
he is a
changer.
game changer, and he was a big signing for Liga MX, and I'm not surprised it was Tigres who did it, pulled the trigger on that. But from he was the number 10 at Atletico de Madrid, won the World Cup with Argentina. He's not in this World Cup squad, but he's a great player, and he's shown it in the year or so that he's been in Liga MX. And if he leaves, that'd be a big loss for the league because he is one of the higher caliber players in the whole league. And so, yeah, Tigres still moving some pieces. If they have to replace him, then I expect them to do a big money signing on someone else. We'll see if that manifests. But let's go on to some of our other matches. And so we have Leon versus Atlas on Friday. Diego Coca just left Atlas. And
And just because Grupo Oralegui just told Atlas, so it's a team in flux. It's typical Mexican soccer. Days before the start of the tournament, the team is in flux. So
they don't have a coach right
you
now.
don't. They don't have a coach, but I guess they made a somewhat splashy signing. They got Jorge Sanchez coming off of a World Cup, so that's something they could hang their hat on.
Yeah, they
We'll
bought
see.
that Tronco from a Greek team like PAOK, and
Yeah, yeah.
what's it called? I don't pay attention to the Greek league. I thought it was an odd signing, and it looks like he only did 6 months. How much? Less than a year in the Greek league, and now he's back for
It was,
Atlas.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
I I think it's a good move for Jorge because He's going to want playing time, wants to be in a competitive league, probably wants to be back home or closer to home. And I think that's great for him, but I don't want to see him for La Selección ever again. I think that he's 28, 29 years old. I think the time has
He has
come.
no business.
Yeah.
With guys like Julian Araujo, Huescas, and Ledesma, he has no business being called. And I don't think he's gonna fit into Rafa's system, anyways.
We don't know, man, because like I think one of the most consistent call ups in the last 6 years for La Selección has been Jorge Sanchez. One of the most so
But
someone.
just like Gallardo, and like I told you, like these guys, I just don't think they're gonna fit in with Rafa. Like, and from the reports, Rafa is gonna clean house. He's gonna implement his style with his own players. So, like I said, I would hold my breath on guys like Sanchez and Gallardo, but yeah,
I want to
it is what
believe
it
you.
is.
I want to believe you, but I'm looking at the recent history and multiple coaches have opted on this guy who cannot cross. He's 28, 29 years old, still cannot cross. But he's fast, he's strong, he's kind of stupid if you ask me. Like I don't think he's tactically aware or as good as tactically aware as I would like my right back to be. So hopefully we don't see him for La Selección, but I wish him well on his adventure for Los Zorros. And yeah, so let's see. And then on Friday we have San Luis versus Cruz Azul, the Chemos. How do you feel about them? They're the champions.
Chemos, let's see. They're the champions. You know what? First of all, going back to what I said, they're homeless again. I think they're gonna go back to the old Estadio Azul, the old reliable, the old just the old field nobody wants, because this is what happens. So Grupo Orayami, which is they own El Azteca and they own El America. Well, they got a new management. They got some with what was it, the that Atlantic group that bought a stake of Club America, the 49%.
Uh-huh.
So the Atlantic group, they brought in their own management. So the team, so I believe a couple of Spanish gentlemen are going to run Club America, and Portuguese gentleman is going to run El Azteca. So here was the deal. They told Cruz Azul, yeah, you had a contract, but that was under old management. Under new management, this is the new contract. And the new contract is a deal breaker, which would be for most teams. They're not going to get a piece of. They're not going to get a piece of concessions, and that was a no-go for Cruz Azul. And let's remember, Azcárraga and El Azteca, they're in the red because I think they owe El Azteca, they owe FIFA over, I think, over $60 million
For the
for
Palcos.
the world, for the World Cup. So they're trying to they're trying to scrape cash however they can, but Cruz Azul said, nah, we don't roll like that, and they're on the move again. It's kind of it's really embarrassing at this point. They should have their go
I hear Mazatlán
do
is free.
that. Yeah, say, but I don't know, like their own stadium in Hidalgo, fix that, or build a new stadium, but do something. This is
You know,
ridiculous already.
so they cannot leave Mexico City. I think the President Sheinbaum declared that they were like part of the city's history, and they're not going to let them go. But the part of the reason they left Estadio Azul is because they don't own it, and the previous owners charged too much of the ticket sales, and they took a big chunk of all profits at the stadium, and they never renovated anything. There's so many horrific images of Estadio Azul, and
Oh my God.
yeah, like the bathroom, the lockers, it's disgusting. Our friend of the show, Jaime at Cantina MX, told us that leaving the stadium, he felt claustrophobic. He felt
Oh
that
yeah.
the stadium
He
might
said
have
it was a
collapsed.
dump. Yeah.
Yeah,
But Rifado,
go ahead.
Moving on to the field, how are you feeling about Joel Wiki? He won the title. He got the interim. Sorry about that. He got the interim table label off, and he's coaching the team. How do you feel? Do you think Wiki Dios established himself as a legit coach?
I think so. I don't think you win the Ligia by accident. This squad, if you look at this squad though, it makes his job easier. You have some of the best players in the league. Paradela, para Vecino. You have Eric Lira, who had a wonderful World Cup for Mexico. You have
Do you think he's going to be in the move? You think Lita's
he
going to be in
he
the move?
might, and if he is, he's gonna bring them a nice chunk of change. But then you also had players like Nicolas Ibanez, who was out for the majority of the last tournament. He's gonna be back at full strength, and then you have the Nigerian. This guy is a straight up
Yeah,
tank, Christian
yeah.
Ibere. You have
Oh,
Luca
the guy.
Romero. I'm waiting for him to catch fire. He's a youngish guy. Rotondi, he had a great tournament last time around. Something like 2 years ago, I thought he was the best player in the league, and as a left back, that's saying something. So you have a squad with real depth, real quality across the board. Some of the best players in the league play for the Chemos, and so he's got the world ahead of him, is what I'm trying to say. And I support him. I support him. I'm a Chiva hermano, but I do have a soft spot for the Chemos because historically they're the working man's club of Mexico City, the albañiles, the construction workers. So it's like a blue collar team. So I think they got a lot going for them. If only they could just settle that stadium issue, they would be a proper club, a proper gigante, proper grande,
And,
I should say.
finally get a proper uniform. Irma in it. But I heard that they're already working on it. I think it's they're looking at Puma, New Balance. Oh no. Uh, it's Reebok. Reebok is coming back into soccer,
That's a good
but
brand.
I think yeah, I think they're cooking up something with Reebok in the next years. But they're gonna be Pirma. But Pirma is just it doesn't it doesn't they don't produce uniforms befitting of a team like Cruz Azul, of a legendary team. I'm sorry, they just don't. But hopefully, that they get that Reebok deal and they get a proper uniform.
Another thing about Cruz Azul is that they've always had some sort of like money laundering corruption thing happening in the back with Billy Alvarez, who rest in peace, died not so long ago. I think in jail or fresh out of jail. But like he was like the owner, and the Alvarez brothers ran Cruz Azul for a long time, and I think they even sold the club out, like had them lose games, historic games in the past. And so
Oh,
go ahead.
before I forget, so as far as they're still working on reinforcements. So one of those two of those reinforcements that they're working on is Cesar Montes. They're trying to get him back from Russia,
It's a
and
good player.
another is Juan Bruneta. So like I said, they already have an impressive squad, and with these reinforcements,
Bruneta would be one
I
hell of a signing.
oh wow, it's gonna be it's gonna be one of the teams to beat definitely.
So we're naming big name players when we're talking about Cruz Azul, but they also have one of my favorite crops of young talent. I'm looking at the young striker Mateo Levy. I'm looking at the center attacking midfielder Amaury Morales, who's a U20. These are U20 players, and then
Rifado, do not get ahead of yourself.
oh, I'm sorry.
You're gonna have your own section at the end of the pod to talk
Well,
about
I'll have
the
to.
young studs, your
You're right.
signature segments.
You're you're right. We will get to the jovenazos, the young studs in a moment, but
Jovenazos, there we go.
but
We'll
but
call
but
it that. The Jovenazos.
yeah, the jovenazos. But what's it called? I guess what I'm trying to say is that bar the stadium issue, which is a massive issue. Cruz Azul is the champion. They have a Mexican coach. They're the working man's club of Mexico City, and they have a great crop of jovenazos and estrellas, man. So I think I think they're a force to be reckoned with. But yeah, so I think they're gonna do easy work. They're gonna make easy work of San Luis. But let's move on. Juarez versus Puebla. Uh, I think Juarez is gonna win it. But both these clubs are kind of the lower table of Liga
Yeah, yeah.
MX. Puebla with a beautiful stadium. I know you don't think it's so beautiful, but I think it's pretty nice looking from what I've seen. I haven't visited it though, so I'll have to visit it to give you the real thing. And then on Saturday, we have Pumas versus Pachuca. That should be good. Pumas with their new coach, the ex coach of Pachuca, which is the little Solari brother. And I
You
think
know, on Pachuca's side, we should point out that Benjamin Mora, the tatted up coach, he gets another shot up in Primera División. So hopefully things go well for him. You know, Mexican soccer needs more young Mexican coaches to shine. So Benjamin Mora, I think we last saw him with Atlas, if I'm not mistaken. But hopefully he has a good tournament with them.
yeah, and he's Mexican. I'm looking at his managerial career. So Wuhan, three towns. So he's coming from China.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
I think he was in Vietnam, or he's had a pretty interesting trajectory. But like I said, I for the sake of Mexican soccer, I hope he manages to establish himself with Pachuca and
yeah,
add another Mexican name.
I love that he's well traveled. Wuhan is in China. Before that,
Oh, okay, good.
Querétaro, and then before that,
Okay.
York United, I believe, in the third division of England.
Oh, okay.
Where's your York United? Oh, it's Toronto. It's a Canadian club,
Okay.
so the second division of MLS, basically. And then
Okay.
prior to that, he was at Atlas, and then Johor Darul Tazim. I don't even know what that. Where is that? That is in Malaysia. Oh, so
Oh, it was Malay. I said
okay.
Vietnam, but yes, it was somewhere in Southeast Asia. There we go.
Okay, okay, interesting. What a trek for this guy. Then before
Yeah,
that,
he's been around. He's got some life experience.
yeah, before that is Chiapas, and then before that is Atlante, and then he started at the Tijuana Reserve. So, well-traveled
Yeah.
guy, nuestro Benjamin Mora. Good luck to you. I think he's at a great institution. Pachuca knows what to do with a little. They do a lot with a little bit, and
Yeah, yeah.
I respect them all the more for that. They're the Pachuca is the Sudamericana champion. They're the only team from Mexico to win a South American championship.
We lift a trophy in South America.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll see. But onto Pumas, they just lost Efrain Alvarez, their Maverick coach who got them to the final, and they also lost Jordan Carrillo, one of their best creative players, to Chivas. And so,
And you know what,
mhm.
Rifado, you know what? I was up. I guess they had a friendly against Deportivo, one of the Cali teams from Colombia.
Yeah, yeah,
And what is no? I'm not even a Pumas fan. It was outrageous. It was Sebastian Cordova, a son of Club America, doing the Goya. That I thought that was out of bounds, man. Come on,
yeah. They
that was
signed
I don't
Sebastian
know,
Cordova, and
yeah.
and they have an interesting squad. They got this great Ecuadorian midfielder named Viti. Uh, I expect them to make the Liguilla at
He
the
was
very least.
Vita,
So
he was at the World Cup. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Vita, he's good.
I thought he was one of the best mediocampistas, one of the best center midfielders in all of Liga MX, the last tournament. And Solari, he did great things. I think he got them to the semi. He got Pachuca to the semifinals
Yeah,
of this
yeah,
last
yeah.
Liguilla. So and now he's at Pumas, and so I'm looking forward to what he can do. And yeah, I think Pumas wins this one, but I could be wrong. Pumas, we're so used to them losing. We are. And shout out to all the Pumas guys. I also, I have a soft spot for Pumas as well. My father's a fan of them from the Jorge Campos days, from the Hugo Sanchez days. And so,
And how could we forget our good friend Tomas from Cantina MX? Tomas was a
of
hell of a
course, shout
guy.
out to the friend of the show, Tomas, our tech daddy, bro. And
Oh, that guy,
good, he's
he's
good
he's
people.
amazing, man.
But my favorite match, the highlight is gonna be Guadalajara versus Toluca on Saturday, July 18th. I'm looking forward
All
to that.
right,
El fútbol sexo de Melito back on the menu, and there's no
all
better
right.
test than Toluca, man. Still led by El Turco Mohamed. Tell me what.
Okay, you know what, Rifaldo? Let's sink our teeth into Chivas this season, man. Like we talked about earlier, they've made some pretty good acquisitions. They got Castañeda, who's a good orchestrator. and they got Jordan Carrillo, who showed out in the Liguilla, and he adds another element of explosiveness.
Hmm.
And I'm really excited about this Chivas. Like I said, it's the title or bust. It's like there's no reason that they should have won last time, but there's really no reason they shouldn't win it. It's just I think all the pieces are there.
I agree, man. I agree. I love the signings we made. I love the players that we have. We have Piojo Alvarado coming off a wonderful World Cup, 3 assists, two-way player, just an absolute unit. Romo, clutch wins, clutch assists in the World Cup. You know, he's coming back. Ant Man didn't hardly participate. I think he participated as a late sub in the first match, or
And he's
and
gonna have a chip on the shoulder. He's gonna have a chip on the shoulder.
and like I've mentioned earlier, he started the league really strong last tournament, and then towards the end he fizzled out. I think he had like 4 or 5 games without a goal, and part of it was a little like injury, I believe. But I think he's gonna start this tournament with a vengeance. I'm looking forward to
And
it.
we have Guti, who I think is. They say that Guti is like they were talking before Cup that he was going to move to Europe this summer, but I think it's the well. First of all, he had a decent World Cup, but it wasn't impressive. Like he had a lot of stage fright. It wasn't really a talent. He just looked shaky at times. But so the move to Europe is gonna is on hold. But he has this opportunity to to take off where he left off with Chivas as a real just a dynamic playmaker from Milito, and I think this is going to be his breakout tournament,
I
and
agree. I agree. You know, prior to this tournament, prior to this World Cup, he was not a starter for Chivas. I think you know, you gotta crawl before you can walk. And before we start talking about Europe, let's talk about him starting for Chivas. You know, and I think he had a good World Cup. I don't think he had an amazing World Cup. I don't think he transcended in a way that many of us hoped. But I'll say he had a good World Cup, and I'll tell you why. You know, against South Africa, he's the guy who got the red for us to put the second red for us to put away the game. You know, it was him on a break and on goal, and they took him down. You know, he was part of that. You know, he helped us put away that game, and so significant player. And in the in what's it called, in the game against England, he comes on immediately, wins us a foul, wins us a penalty. You know, against England, you know, we were 3-1 at that moment. It was pivotal for him to get us that penalty. So I think those are big player moves. And so yeah.
and you know what? It wasn't the effort wasn't bad for a player that had only had 7 call ups before the World Cup. So
Yeah, yeah.
I know we had high hopes for him, but you know what? It wasn't bad. But you know, moving up to the rest of the lineup, you know, we in the back we have El Cotorro on the left, Cotorro Gonzalez, and then we got Richie Ledesma, who's I think is a guy that he's going to be a guy that Rafa Marquez calls up. He had some issues with Aguirre, maybe that's why he didn't go to the World Cup. But I think I think Gonzalez and Ledesma they're going to be national team players, both of them.
I agree. I agree. But one thing on Guti that I wanted to touch on real quick, and it's that when we talked to him, we saw him live. We were at media day prior to the World Cup, and Albert and I both had the chance to talk to him. And Albert, you asked him, like, you know, like, how, like, has this hit? Or are you living it day by day? And he's like, I don't, what did he say? I kind of don't believe it. I'm still taking it day by day. So
Yeah, yeah,
obviously
yeah.
it was a lot. It was a lot for him to, like, not even be Mexican, to being a Chivas player, to being in the
Well, think
selección.
about it. In December, he was a no national team.
Yeah.
He was a no
No,
senior
no, no.
in
He was in the
December,
U.S.
and then
men's national team.
oh, but in a senior, like he wasn't in a
Yeah,
senior
yeah.
project.
He
Like
wasn't in a cedar
he wasn't
project.
on
Yes.
Pochettino's radar.
No.
He came to Mexico with Chivas and Aguirre, you know, finding solutions. It was weird. He caught his eye and he had him as a starter. It's like I said in that article I wrote for the LA Times. Is like he went away from his approach and he had confidence in a young guy like Guti.
Yeah, I'm surprised he doesn't have whiplash, man. That's how fast things change for him. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
were talking about yeah. So I just wanted to, before we move on from Guti too much, but Ledesma, Cotorro, I thought they should have both been in this World Cup squad. They were coming off a fantastic tournament, especially Richie Ledesma. No, I should say both of them equally because Cotorro was getting these late goals for Chivas. He was getting in on goal. I wish he would have played instead of Gallardo because I feel like they're of the same mold. Him and Gallardo, strong, fast, athletic guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Morro Prietos, which I have a soft spot for, and what's it called? I feel like it was a bit of an injustice for him not to go. Both of these players, because Richie Ledesma could play multiple places throughout the field. He could play right winger, he could play right back, he could play center midfielder, and I feel we could have used Richie because our right winger, Piojo Alvarado, was a two-way player. I think Richard Ledesma,
Yeah.
being a lateral, a right back, he could also have been a false winger or a two-way player on the wing
But
for
like I
us.
told you, he had an issue. He had some issue where with Aguirre or how he ended up with the Mexican team. Aguirre said something, and then Ledesma pretty much called him a liar, and we never saw him again.
That was unfortunate. That was unfortunate, but the sun has set on the Vasco Aguirre era, and now we're in the Marquez era. So let's hope it's a start. It's a fresh start. It's a clean new page for our boy. I believe he's from Houston, Texas. For our Texan Pocho homie.
Rifado,
Dígame.
looking at the rest of the Chivas midfield, we got guys like Govea, like Romo. It's a real strong part of the team. That just the midfield.
I agree. I agree. And I'm wondering how Kevin Castaneda, a recent buy from Cholos, is going to fit in. He can be in the midfield. You can play him as a winger. I think he's kind of wasted on the wings, but I don't know whose spot he's going to take. Jordan Carrillo, also same thing. You could play him as a center attacking midfielder, as a midfielder, or as a winger. I think he's wasted on the wings, but I don't know who he's going to displace. But they are fantastic. They do bolster our squad depth. I'm curious to how they're going to be integrated into the squad. Melito plays with five in the back. Basically three midfielders and two strikers. So I wonder how he's going to fit these pieces together. But it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. You want your manager to be like, oh wow, all of my players are quality. Who do I start? And then this will get them to compete with one another, to give their best in practice, and hopefully make history for Chivas. So I'm very excited for them. But onto Toluca. Tell me, what are your thoughts on the bicampeón led by El Turco Mohamed? Do you think he's run out of magic?
How about Rifado? We're not done with Chivas. We
Oh,
forgot to talk about
go
two
ahead.
guys in the back. We forgot to talk about Campillo, who I think is going to be another guy with a breakout tournament. He had an injury last season, and he wasn't able to really establish himself. And I think he even made the World Cup team had he had more time. And then we have Perez, we have Aguirre, and then I go. We got Rangel, who I'm gonna be honest. I was doubting him, but I think he had a solid World Cup, and I think I don't know if he's going to make that move to Europe. Supposedly Wolverhampton of the Championship League was looking at him, which would be a decent move. Not bad, not bad. It's not a top flyer, but the Championship is a good tournament. But it's just the Chivas have some notable guys in the back.
They do, and I didn't mention the return of Luis Rey, who was on loan at Puebla and played a majority of games as a center defensive midfielder, and I bring that up because it's a testament to how good he is on the ball. He's a center back who's good with his feet, and I want to see him integrated. Gilberto Sepulveda has been shipped off to Juarez, and so we're gonna need someone to step up in the back because I think we're a little bit thin there. I think we're a little bit thin, but I think Luis Rey is the guy to take things by storm. So we'll see how that goes. But everywhere you look, Chivas has quality. I had some doubts for the goalkeeper
You know,
Wally, but he
Rifado,
go ahead. I think I lost you, Albert.
you, you, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah.
Go ahead, Albert.
And you know what? Like talk about relay, Luis Rey, but we have other depth pieces like how could we forget Gael Sandoval and Sergio Aguayo who had good liguillas. It's like I said, this team has some depth to it, and I think it's going to be crucial because what have we said in last tournaments? Chivas has no depth. I think they finally have it.
Aguayo was an interesting signing. We got him from Pachuca. He's a tattooed young guy, I think 23, 24 years old. So he had good moments, but he couldn't define it. He didn't get those clutch goals that we needed. But obviously, Melito rates him because he subbed him on as opposed to other options. So I'm excited for Aguayo. Hopefully, he can finally find the back of the net. But he finds himself in those positions. He got those positions in on goal. He just needs to make them concrete. He needs to fulfill those that. And then of course you mentioned Negrito Sandoval, and I love him, dude. And so I think he's gonna be a revelation. Honestly, I think I was kind of surprised that we bought all these creative attacking midfielders because I would rate him as a creative attacking midfielder, second striker. And but I think I think it's going to be a breakout season for him, or another stalwart season, I should say, because he
And
was already good for us. Go ahead.
Rifado, Rifado, what about our boy Hugo Cambreros? What happens with him? It's like everybody thought that with Milito he was going to finally be a regular player, but he hasn't. He's only 19, but he
So
has a talent,
so
and
he
it just we don't know what's going to happen with him.
I'm gonna say he's gonna stick around. They just gave him the number 14, and he did sign that.
Yeah,
He reluctantly signed a contract extension at Chivas. The thing about him though is that we don't play with real wingers at Chivas. We don't play
yeah,
with
yeah,
real
yeah.
wingers,
yeah.
and he's a real
So
winger.
they put him out of position.
They put
They
him out
put
of
him
position.
inside, and he gets
No, no, no.
yeah.
They put him as a wing back, bro, late in the game for him to attack,
Oh,
and
but I seen him inside too, and that's one of his complaints that Melito just puts him all over the place, and like he gets lost.
I think it might be best for him to move, hopefully to Europe after this tournament. But I think he's sticking around for this tournament at the very least. And like I said, they gave him the 14, and I think he's going to stay one more. And like I said, these are good problems to have because you know everywhere I look at the Chivas roster, I see quality. So good times ahead for our Chiva hermanos. Any last words on Chivas?
No, it's we're gonna save that for the predictions at the end.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's move on to Toluca, man, because I even though they're the bicampeon, they were eliminated last liguilla pretty early on, or not, earlier than they would have liked, because for a long time we're like, are they gonna make history and win three in a row like Club America? But they didn't. They got eliminated, and now Turco Mohamed is in this spot where like a lot of people are wondering, do you stay or do you go? Because he's historically been the sort of guy who wins it and then fucks off. And so I'm wondering how much time is left in his Toluca FC tenure. What are your thoughts?
Well, well, to begin with, he's the longest tenure he's had four tournaments with Toluca, so he's the it just shows how much turnover there is in Liga MX. He's a longer tenured coach, and like I said, Rato, CONCACAF. I don't know what 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 are other ambitions Mohamed has, and like if we look at his history, he doesn't stay for too long.
Yeah.
So could
Uh,
this be the Swans? I don't know.
I think this might be his swan song, but he's got quality in his squad. We're talking about players that can really make a difference for you at Chivas, and I'm seeing a lot at I'm seeing a lot at Toluca. Who's great? Paulinho, of course. Elinho, the Brazilian winger. Who else? Alexis Vega, oof, on one knee. I think I don't know. I think he needs time to rest, or we may have seen the last of the best of Vega, unfortunately. But then you have players like Santiago Simon, the
Yeah.
Argentine, uh, from bought from River Plate, Marcel Ruiz, who I think has healed from his minor knee tear, and then of course Franco
No,
Romero.
he's gonna be out for a while. He's gonna be out for a while.
Oh, is he now? Okay. Well, hopefully he heals up. But there's
I think Marcelo's out for the next 6. I expect him for that.
okay. Well, best of luck to Ruiz. It was unfortunate. It was tragic that he missed the World Cup, but I do hope he comes back stronger than ever. But I don't think Toluca's gonna miss him too much. Franco Romero.
Aguirre could have. Aguirre could have used them.
I think Aguirre could have used him. I think Toluca can use him, but I'm looking at this guy Franco Romero. I think he's the best midfielder in the whole damn league, and so or attacking midfielder or midfielder. I think he's wonderful. Nicolas Castro, another great player. I already mentioned Santiago Simon, Angulo, the number 10. There's a lot of quality here. Am I having technical difficulties? Can you hear me, Albert?
A little bit. A little bit. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
You sound good now.
all right. So Toluca, great team, but I think it might be the end of the line for Turco. Maybe this project needs a revamp. All right, and then that leads us to Sunday, the last day of match day one of Liga MX. Tell me, who do you think? What do you think about Monterrey and Santos? 6 p.m.
Or Rifado as a Chiva hermano, I gotta mention obviously the white elephant in the room, and that's Matias Almeida, the last great the guy to last deliver a golden era for Chivas back in the last years of the last decade. Matias Almeida, he left for Europe and now he's back in Mexico, but it's not with red pinstripes. It's with blue pinstripes, and that's with Monterrey. And I know some Chivas fans are torn, but the guy has to work. He's a good coach, and all the best all the best to him with Monterrey, because that would just validate how great a coach he is.
He is. It's unfortunate what happened to him at Sevilla. I thought he would have lasted a little longer, but no hay plata. There was no money for him to spend in Sevilla, and he was relying on old dogs like Alexis Sanchez. Now he's not going to
Oh,
worry
God,
about money. Now he's not going to worry. He's at Monterrey. They're going to have money to spare, and you have players like Canales leaving. So a major restart is happening at the with the Regio there, with
you
the.
know they
Go ahead.
they've always betted on splashy coach hires, El Vasco, Vucetich, the I think was it Clement Domenech, the Spanish coach, I believe, the guy that took him to the Club World Cup. So they've always tried to make these splashy hires at coach, and Matias is another one. But I think Matias is going to stick, and he's going to do good things with them. And as far as reinforcements, they got Diego Rossi, who has who had a stint in 2 stints in MLS. He's coming from the Columbus Crew that he also played in Turkey. The guy, he could score, and obviously it doesn't compare to the type of reinforcements that Monterrey is used to, but he's a very good player.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what Matias Almeida has to offer Monterrey. I there's no hard feelings for me. If any other coach was coaching Chivas right now, other than Milito, I might be a little upset. But I just can't imagine anyone taking the reins from Milito. So I just don't understand those who are sore about Almeida coming making money and coming back to the country that treated him so well, which is of course Mexico. And even his he talked about how his daughters loved living in Mexico, and it's so funny. Marcel from what like this Mexican comedian Marcelo,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
he bumped into the to Almeida's daughters in Spain, and quick shout out. But what's it called? I thought it was like what a small world. But it like they recognized each other or they recognized him, right? And it just goes to show you how into Mexican media the
Some
Almeida
people say
family is.
that Adrian Marcelo was the connection with Monterrey. That he ended up being an intermediary. That some people say, but I don't know.
I thought he was a Tigres fan.
They say, but I think even Adrian has given credence to that.
So
Like,
he's from Monterrey, right? So I guess there is some plausibility. But I'm looking forward to this project. We'll see what happens. I wonder what's going to happen to Tecatito. Tecatito Prime was what people were saying about a year
it
ago.
was a thing last summer, but it was just a thing for the It was just like they say, a summer fling, and and everybody said like, oh, Aguirre should consider him, and I don't even think Aguirre called him up once. I don't know. I
He's
don't
not
think
an
so.
Aguirre player. He's not a two-way guy. He's done. He's done. But like I did see sparks of brilliance or a flash of the old Tecatito that we all fell in love with at Porto, FC 20, and all those years ago. But yeah, interesting club. I think they're gonna do easy work with Santos, but Santos they might surprise us. We'll see. I haven't really kept up with them, but they have been the dregs of Liga MX without a doubt. And
It's the real life Club de Cuervos with that junior running the team.
very true, very true. But now let's move on to the last, but not least, the last match of match week 1, which is
Certainly
Querétaro.
not least.
No, Querétaro versus America. And everyone's excited to see this new version of America. Jardinet has left, and now we have Almada. Coming off of a failed stint, Real Oviedo in La Liga. They were relegated to the second division. Didn't work out for him, but he's here back in Mexico to redeem himself with one of the biggest clubs in the whole country. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's going to be a transitional tournament for America. Jardine left after just a glorious run with the team. They got the tricampeonato. It's just they really won under him, and now it's and then also Jonathan Dos Santos, who had been a stalwart with the team. He's also done. Nestor Araujo, his contract was up. He's gone too. So it's the winds of changes are blowing through Cuapa, and Almada came in. Almada, he fits what the Americanista likes. He's a dynamic coach. He's very offensive. We saw with Pachuca, and you know what? And to his credit, he knows how to work with the youth players, and I think that's going to be key with America because under the new ownership format. They're not going to be spending. You're not going to. We already didn't see splashy hires, and we're going to see less splashy hires. So Almada's gonna work with the young guys, and you know what? America has some guys to look at. I think Ramon Juarez consolidates himself, and then I think Pato Salas, who came on last season. I think he's like Raul Jimenez type associative center forward. I think he takes off this season. So don't expect big names from America, but for Americanista fans, I think you're in good hands with Almada, and he's gonna give you some jovenazos that you could hang your hat on.
I agree. They have a good crop of jovenazos, and I think after this is a really good segue for us to get into jovenazos. But what's it
Yeah.
called? You know, what was I gonna say? Um, they they are rumored to get one splashy hire, and that's Borja.
Okay.
Uh,
But Borja, but typical Borja's being political, saying, "Oh, I'm happy with Santa," but you know what? It could happen. Then, like I said, the new guy,
is it
the
Borja
new guy.
Iglesias? Borja
They were
Iglesias.
they were saying Borja. They were saying Borja. I heard
Okay, yeah,
Borja at least.
Borja
Yeah.
Iglesias, and
So
he's
so
a
America now is run. it's
Uh,
now run by two Spanish gentlemen, so they got the connections. So
so he's a
it
good
was
player, man. He's 6'2". He's a big, strong guy. He's kind of woke. He's kind of woke. But what's it called? He uh he did really well with Real Betis, really well. Where I thought he was going to go to a big club, didn't go to a big club. Second season, or like after that wonderful season, he was kind of like, I think, injured. He didn't produce the same numbers, but then he played for Celta de Vigo, got his form back, but now he's a little bit older. He is 33 years old, and the rumors are strong that he comes to Club America. So I do think that's a splashy hire. I like him. He's a big, strong guy with a good touch. You know, he's playing for Spain. Got called up for Spain. Can you imagine that? Like,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
so many forwards that could have played for Spain. They got this guy. He's at a
yeah,
mid-table
yeah.
club in Celta de Vigo, but there's obvious quality there. And if Club America can sign this guy, I think that would make their club all the better, because I wouldn't say he's a 9.5, but he can be a 9.5. You know, he's a target man who has good feet, and so him between him and Pato Salas, I think you have you know, a great nine. You have two great strikers. One of them who's more better at facilitating others, like Pato Salas, and then, you know, this guy who's more of a traditional nine, but can also play others. So you know, and then, you know, accompany that with the jovenazos that they have. I think
And then
they
Sendejas, Eric Sanchez, Violante at midfield. It's a team that's gonna fight. I know there's a lot of pessimism within the America fan base, but they have a team and they have a coach that's gonna put them in the fight.
Yeah, I like their backline with Sebastian Caceres, who is
Oh
a
yeah,
was an Uruguayan starter, right? Who played over
yeah,
Chema Jimenez of Atletico de Madrid. Like, that was his spot. He's one of the captains of Uruguay. He's not playing. Caceres of Club America plays over him. I know Uruguay had a bad World Cup, but like, to be the center back in this pool of Uruguayan players for Caceres, it means a lot, and it shows you that this the center back for Club America is of the highest quality. Could even play in Europe. So I think him, Israel Reyes, and then you have this kid Thiago Espinosa, who's like a right back. Then you have Ralph Orquin, who's a left back. So Ralph Orquin is he was at Juarez, and I think he represents the United States right now. 23 years old, but he's a great player, and hopefully I don't think he's been capped by the senior national team. So hopefully we can steal him if because I think he might have a breakout season, and there's other jovenazos like Miguel Vasquez, who could play right back, left back. Who else do we have? You know, and then we not we, but Club America kept one of the Brazilians in Lima. So we'll see if he can find that form that he was kind of missing last time around. Then you have El Raito, Brian
yeah.
Rodriguez.
This guy's not a jovenazo, but I'm surprised Everybody was talking about, Atlanta was one of the destinations. Everybody was talking about how Henry Martin was on his way out, but I think he's going to play one more tournament.
Yeah. And so, you know, Henry Martin, Esteban Lozano, 23-year-old striker, Pato Salas, 22-year-old striker, and hopefully Borja
Yeah, they
Iglesias.
got, as
It,
they say, as my friends like to say, they have caballos. They have caballos.
Yeah, so it's a different it's a different style of Club America, in the sense there's no
Yeah,
bombazos, there's no like crazy ass signings, you know, there's not a lot of huge money. Like, there is money in the squad. Don't get me wrong, but it's smart money. It's
yeah,
well spent.
yeah.
It's
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It's not big money. It's smart money, and you know what? Smart money gets you titles too.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the proof is in the pudding. These guys won three liguillas in a row. So you know,
With money. Yeah.
we'll see how they form. And with that, let's get to the Jovenazos. We already spoke of Club
Okay, let
America.
me introduce it. So this is going to be a section throughout this podcast. If there's in the entire Liga MX in English community, I don't think there's another guy that has his eye on the young upstarts in Liga MX like Rifado. So this is going to be the Jovenazos section, and take it away, Rifado.
Thank you so much. So let's get started with Cholos. We all have the elephant in the room of course, Gilberto Mora with his last tournament, possibly in Liga MX. But aside from him, we have El Loquito Abreu, the coach's son of Cholos. He is I think he's 19 years old, and he's representing Uruguay right now. But right now, it was because I think he got in a fight with the FMF because he didn't get called up to the World Cup, and because he didn't get called up to the U20 World Cup, they threw a berinche, and now he decided to play for Uruguay. But I think there's hope for us to get him back. But they have another great little jovenazo, Ramiro Arciga, who is 21 years old, right winger, really fast kid. I think if he has a great season, someone like Club America will sign him. He's someone worth watching. If you haven't already seen him, great jovenazo for Cholos. Of course, Gilberto Mora, and now El Loquito Abreu. Great players, jovenazos to look out for at the Frontier Club. And then we have Cruz Azul. I was already speaking a little bit of some of their lineup, some of their players. You got Amaury Morales, center attacking midfielder. I saw him more this last tournament, but it's just so hard to break into this Chemo squad with all the talent that they have. But he's 20 years old. I think he should be starting day in, day out. And if he doesn't break into the Chemos this season, he needs to find a club to do that. Another jovenazo, Brian Gamboa, winger, center attacking midfielder. This kid is quick, 24 years old, so he's not really a jovenazo anymore. But I don't think he's had too many first team minutes. I want to see him this season. Mateo Levy, striker, 19 years old. He's got the number 20, 214, another striker to watch out for. And then who else do we have? We have there was one other guy. What's his name? Omar Campos, 23-year-old Omar Campos. So this guy started off at Santos Laguna. He gets sold to LAFC, and then he comes back and he wins the left back position under Vicente Sanchez, I believe. And so
Yeah.
he's a great player. It wasn't easy to displace Rotondi. Rotondi is playing as a winger now, which I think benefits him in his older age. He doesn't have to go up and down. But like for him to
He,
come
he,
in and take the left wing, the left back spot from I arguably one of the best players in Liga MX is astounding.
he's a he's a, he's another guy you could throw into the national team mix right there. I think the on the left side, it really depends how Rafa's going to play. But on the left back, obviously the heir apparent to Gallardo is Mato Chavez, but Campos is a guy that you could definitely throw in there.
Yes sir, yes sir. And then who's got the most jovenazos? Las Mis Chivas, man. Mis Chivas has done it right,
Oh
dude.
yeah,
The
it's the
chickens.
bloodline. It's the bloodline of the team.
Oh man, so we have, of course, Ant Man, 23 years old, Armando Gonzalez. I think he's European bound. I hope he finds his form. We spoke of Sergio Aguayo and how he's kind of hasn't quite hit the stride that we want, but he's finding himself in these dangerous positions. Only 23 years old, he's got the world ahead of him. Who else do we got? Efrain is 24 now, not really a jovenazo, but we already spoke of El Negrito Santi Sandoval, 18 years old, man, and he's already our answer off the bench. And before and before this last tournament, he was almost a starter. He should have been starting more. And then we have also Samir Inda, 18-year-old kid. He's famous because he's got a beautiful mom,
Oh
and
wow.
he played. He was a U17 player, but he came off the bench for us and he won us a match. I think I want to say two tournaments ago or a turn at the beginning of last tournament, and of course everyone started coming out with the memes about his mom. But shout out to Samir. I want to see more of him, man. He's a young kid, and he's got an interesting name. I wonder if he has Arabic, what's it called, roots. And then we already spoke of Hugo Camberos, only 19 years old. I'm surprised he's so young. We've been talking about
And
him.
oh, it's like it feels like he's been here for a while, but he's only 19.
He's only 19 years old. We'll see what he can
Hey, what
do.
happened? What happened to what is it, Jael Padilla? What happened to him?
I believe we sold him. We sold
Okay.
Padilla. Where do we sell? We
Yeah,
s-
because he wanted to leave because he wanted to consolidate himself with somebody else.
Yeah, who does he play for? He plays for Tijuana. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah, he's gonna he's someone to watch. He's still fast, man. He was our number 10 for the U20 World Cup. So I definitely want to see him, succeed, man, because he wasn't getting the minutes, and I think we were kind of tired of him at Chivas. Like we were waiting for a long time, kind of like Hugo Camberos. I think it's like be good or leave or like these guys, they're promises, but they can't win a starting spot or they can't
Yeah.
consistently win a substitute spot.
And he's still relatively young. He's barely going to turn 21 in December, so he's not that he has a youth on his side. So hopefully he's him and Canveros are able to finally become the players every Chiva hermano thought they would become.
Hopefully so. I got my fingers crossed. But then we also have Brian Gutierrez, Brian Gonzalez. The Brian's both 23 years old. I still consider him jovenazo. Same thing with Luis Rey, who's coming back from Puebla. Jovenazo, 23 years old. Miguel Gomez, our right back, 23 years old. And if they're not 23, they just turned 24, like Jose Castillo, like Campillo. We have a very young squad here at Chivas, and I'm excited, man, because not only do we have quality, we have young quality. And let's move on. I don't want to just
All right.
gloat and give praises to Chivas because
Okay.
Toluca, they got the center back who I thought should have gone instead of Montes. I know no one is going to displace Montes, but I thought he was too slow for El Tri. And then you have Everardo Lopez del Villar, 20-year-old center back for Toluca.
He made it. He made it to the last cut. No,
Yeah,
he
he
was
made it to the
one
last
of the last
cut,
guys.
and he's left-footed. He's fast, and he plays for Turco Mohamed, who is famous for not playing jóvenes, for playing the old guns. So for him to cement himself as a day in day starter for the bicampeón of Toluca under Turco Mohamed should show you like the quality of this kid. This kid should be in Europe, I believe, and I hopefully he can manifest that move or I don't know, continue to win with Toluca so that the selección can never ignore him again. But I hope that Marquez has him in his plans because I thought he should have been in this lineup for us. It's a tragedy that he didn't go. Who else we got? And you know what? I think that's good for Jovenazos. I'm sure there's some that I'm missing, but I think we're a little bit short for time. Why don't we move to the next
And it's going to
segment?
be a long season. It's going to be a
It's
long season, so
Yeah, yeah,
we'll have time.
we'll have time to go over all the Jovenazos, and you guys can
Cool.
let us
Well,
know. The audience can let us know of any Jovenazos that we need to know about. Thank you, I
uh,
do appreciate it. But why don't you take us to the next segment, Albert?
okay, let's wrap up this second episode of the Mexican Football Podcast with bold predictions. You know what? This is not. It's not going to be so bold. Maybe it's going to be bold for Chiva haters. But you know what? I think this is it. I think it's they say that Chivas wins around every 10 years. So I think Chivas in December, Chivas adds the 13th star to the jersey. I don't see how it doesn't happen. They've only got stronger. A team without five seleccionados, five players that were called up by Aguirre, they did good in the liguilla. They were barely eliminated by the eventual champ, which only had like Lira was the only one missing. So that I remember I asked Romo and Hormiga about that, and they were very impressed how their teammates had performed without them. And like I said, I think the bold prediction would be if Chivas doesn't win, because I really don't see how they don't win.
I want to
But
believe. I want to believe, but I've been hurt too many times. I've been hurt too many times, and my bold prediction is that yeah, I guess it's not that bold, but it's bold for me because I'm a Chivas fan and I want Chivas to win it. My bold prediction is that Cruz Azul runs it back.
oh wow, I didn't expect that, Rifado. Wow.
Believe it, man. I
Hey,
see I see that squad, bro. I look at that squad
but
and I'm like, damn, dude. Go
But
ahead.
I'm happy. I'm happy you went because I don't want to be accused of being a Chivas homer page. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad you chose with your. You know, you didn't choose with your heart. I
I
didn't choose.
didn't.
I didn't choose with my heart. I genuinely think Chivas should win, but I'm glad because then you start saying, "Oh, it's another Chivas podcast." But no, no. So Cruz Azul runs it back for you.
I believe so, man. I believe so. It's gonna be tragic. The shit talk is gonna be legendary. But
Wow.
I do believe the Chemos run it back for the bicampeon. I look at the squad, man. The squad is a tournament winning squad, man. And so we'll see, man.
Too bad. Yeah, too bad they don't have they don't have a home for their trophy showcase. But you know,
That's crazy, bro. It's like when you when you bump into a homeless guy with a Gucci belt. That's what it seems like. But you know, hopefully they get that sorted out because they are a grande. They're a part of Liga MX's history, and I
oh yeah,
want
yeah, it's a top
you know,
four,
and
top four,
it
top
makes
four.
yeah they're one of the cuatro grandes, and it just doesn't make sense for them to be homeless and to
No,
it
it's ridiculous, and they should. They and then Mexico has aspirations of hosting the Club World Cup, maybe the World Cup in '38. So a Cruz Azul stadium, let's
a
talk
new
about
Cruz
35
Azul
and over.
stadium. Oof.
A new Cruz Azul stadium, 35 and over. It would be great for those plans.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see, man. Hopefully they can sort that out. Anything else you want to go in? You want to talk about?
Oh, that's it. Let's bring out let's bring out the soundboard and let's wrap this up with the drums. There we go, and a clap.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much, Albert. I do appreciate you taking the time to talk about this on the MF podcast, on the Mexican Football Podcast. This is episode 2.
The Mamada free zone. Remember that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is the end of episode 2. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We saw some of the numbers, and we're very grateful. And there's more to come. You know, the pod's going to keep on growing, and we're going to keep getting better at this. I promise. And you know, thank you for listening, and we'll be back very shortly. So,
Oh, and let me put this out there. If anybody wants to chime in or join the conversation, hit us up on our social media, and we'll get you on here, and we'll mix it up with you.
yes, sir. So you can just look up the Mexican Football Pod, spelled FUTBOL, instead of the English way to say football. So look us up. We're on Spotify. We're on Twitter or X Spaces, and we're all on YouTube. So just give us a look up, and then send us a comment or send us a message on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and we'll be happy to respond to you. And we'd love to have you on if you want to go ahead and chop it up with us. We just ask that you be a little respectful. Semi-serious podcast. Human,
Hey,
but a little serious. And
hey, just keep it PG-13. That's all we ask.
yes, sir, yes, sir. And with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Thank you, everyone. We do appreciate you. Have a good evening.
Thanks.